Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the HumanizeHer podcast. I'm your host, Erica Lockheimer.
And I'm your co-host, Elizabeth.
This is truly a movement and also a passion project of mine. We're going to be speaking to amazing women, talking about their success stories, their challenges, their endeavors, and any way that we can support them. We're going to have so much fun learning together. So let's dive in. Get ready to be inspired. We have a true force of nature joining us today, Aishwarya Srinivasan. Currently, she heads developer relations and growth at Fireworks AI. She was previously at Microsoft as a senior AI advisor to help Combinator startups build machine learning solutions leveraging Microsoft's core OpenAI products. Prior to this, Aishwarya was working as a data scientist in Google Cloud and an AI and ML innovation leader at IBM. She's a Columbia data science post-grad and an advocate for open source technologies and is a contributor herself to Deepchecks, Lightning AI, and Scikit Learn. Her accolades: Trailblazer of the Year by Women in AI and a Woman of Influence by the Business Journal, both in 2022. She received the EB-1A green card for her AI contributions, has been spotlighted as a LinkedIn top voice for data science and AI, and check this out, has over 500,000 LinkedIn followers. So buckle up and let's give a massive welcome to the one and only Aishwarya. Aishwarya, also known as Ash. Well, welcome to HumanizeHer. We're so excited to have
Thank
you
you.
here.
I'm super excited to be here. It's such a wonderful studio. So I'm just very glad that I'm here and doing this in person.
Well, I'm just glad you said yes. I've been a fan of yours online, especially with AI. I mean, we're going to go through your whole AI journey, your book, and what you're doing as an influencer on AI. But I was a fan. I was like, I'm going to reach out to her on LinkedIn cold. And you responded, I think it was even really late at night too. You responded right away. So thank you for that.
No, I was very glad to hear from you. Of course, I've been following your work. And you've been doing such amazing things to inspire women. And you are such a big motivation for people to grow in their careers and do such amazing things. So, of course.
Oh, I like that. That's not what I was expecting, but thank you. I was like, super fans. Okay.
I need a moment for that one.
Okay. I got this. Okay. So thank you, Ash. And I mean, there's just so many things for us to share in this moment. And obviously, we're in the AI era. I can tell you, I've been in tech for almost 30 years. I went through the dot-com era, the mobile era, and now we have this AI era. Just a lot is going on. And for you to be an influencer also on AI, we want to first start with your journey. Like, how does that even happen where AI is your platform of choice and your passion? How did you get there? Like, what is that energy? You're like, I'm going to be an AI influencer, let alone write a book. We'll get to that later. But how did it even happen? Like, just walk us through a little bit personal side of you. That'd be fantastic.
I think it started because of the exposure that I got early on. My mom used to work in a business school. So, both my parents were working at some point. So I didn't have anybody to take care of me at home. So my father retired by the time I was in 8th grade. So then he had he was there at home to take care of me. But before then, there was no nanny or nothing of that sort. So after school, I used to spend a ton of my time with my mom in her office. So used to just see her doing what she was doing, and she was into data analytics and the traditional statistics sort of a thing. Okay. And back in those days, there was this tool called IBM SPSS, which is still there, but then she has been sort of the OG user of that tool for statistical analysis back in early 2000s. And that's how I got introduced to it, because she used to give me mini projects. She's like, if this girl is just going to sit here, she's gonna bother me. So let me just give her some work. So she used to start giving me some stuff, and she'll be like, hey, can you enter all of these questionnaire data onto Excel? And I'm like, okay. Then I'm obviously asking her questions about what is this, what is that, and I got to learn about some terminologies that she was working on. Back then, it was not fancy machine learning or AI. It was just data analytics, right? That's how I got exposed to it, and I loved coding when I was in school. I absolutely loved it. It was something that I felt like I don't want to do any of the other courses. I don't want to learn any of the other subjects. All I want to do is coding.
What made you take that first coding class?
I was there since I think like I was in my 4th grade. I had like some form of coding since I was in my 4th grade.
What kind of coding? Because I know they have different ones to expose, kids to coding. What was it?
I mean, I'm still like, old, so I don't know if they have
Okay,
that.
let's not define old here.
You're old.
Back when I was in like 4th, 5th grade, we used to have this toolkit called PC logo. So it was this like little turtle on the computer, and you say like LT90, which was like, turn 90 degree to the left. Or you say like RT90 and then it'll like turn to different directions. So you basically use direction plus a degree of turn for you to like create patterns. So you can do like a lot of like drawings and stuff using that. That's how it started. So I used to love having like a structured language or like, and like just doing math. I used to love doing that. And after I like finished school, it was very clear to me that, hey, computer science is what I want to pursue. And I guess at that point, machine learning was again like not very prevalent, at least in India. There were a bunch of like cloud computing courses that we had, which was just starting off. And I experimented with a bunch of things, I was like, hey, I even like published this research paper called Data Science as a Service in 2014.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. Okay, we got to find that. Is it still? I'm sure it's still out on the internet.
Out
okay.
there.
Now, when you read back on it, I guess, that would be an interesting perspective.
I mean, when I read back on it, I definitely feel if I had ChatGPT, I could have written a better paper.
Of course.
My language, my command on the language was not very good back then. So I definitely feel that I could have done a better job. But then at that point, data science as a service was not something that anybody thought of. So it was very cool that I got to like work on it. It was more research side of things that I was doing during my undergrad. But since I came here, I fell in love with the applied side of things. I was like, hey, I want to like, one, I'm lazy. So I'm like, will I spend another 5 years in academia? Maybe not. So I turned towards like applied data science side of things.
You seem the opposite of lazy.
I know.
I just wanted to say that out loud.
We'll talk about all the things that are not lazy on the list. So you said you came back. You came to the U.S.
Yeah.
Or, like, what brought you to the U.S.?
So I'll tell you a little story. Like I was telling this a little bit about this to you earlier. I grew up in a family where my mom was sort of the breadwinner. Like, she was the alpha. I saw her like making the financial decisions. Like, she used to take care of all of us. And I have seen her to be always, wouldn't call her authoritative. She's like a really shy, naive person. But then it's just the confidence that she has that, hey, we have got this. She's like, hey, I am not dependent on anybody. I am independent. I can take care of my family, and I'm going to navigate whatever challenges are coming my way with her own respect, right? So I've seen her grow up like that. And if you see something different outside of your house, you're suddenly caught off guard. Yeah. So that's something that I saw. Like, as soon as I left home and went for my undergrad to a completely different state, I realized that, hey, society probably does not treat women with actual equality of opportunities. So I started feeling this sense of, I'm not gonna trust you with like critical projects because I don't think you can do it. Or
because you're a woman.
Yeah. Or it's more like, hey, we are going to work on this project and there's 3 guys on the team. So you take care of the technical part. And Aishwarya, you start working on the presentation. I'm like,
And you didn't have this experience when you were in India.
That's what I used to have in India.
Oh, that's what you used
So
to have in
that's
India.
what I used to have in India.
You used to have in India. Got it. Okay. Because I was going to say the US ain't not much different. I'm just saying.
No, really.
that used to actually be more.
More.
So that used to be more.
Interesting.
And this was, I'm sure this is there here still, like to some extent, but then because of people like you, like, you've marked the space for like other women to like grow and thrive. And that needs to be done more in India. And I'm glad like since the time I've left, that has increased. But then at that point in time, I used to feel really scared. I was a young girl and like, At that point in time, I was not really thinking about like getting married or like having a family. That used to never be my number one priority. I did not grow up as a girl like dreaming about my wedding. All I wanted to do was like be a really successful career woman. And when I was going for like, internships and stuff, and I oftentimes heard women themselves saying that, why do you want to work so hard? Like, you have to take a career break. The growth is not going to be the same. You have to slow down. Yeah. I'm like, how am I going to grow in a society where women are so conditioned to think this way? That, it's not just that they're not fighting for themselves, but then they're expecting other women to also follow a certain path. So I felt this was not going to work out for me. And the other part is I feel I'm very vocal about things, and I'm very strong-headed. So if something is not right, I'm not going to take that shit. I'm like, I am going to talk about it. So that used to also sometimes come across as that, oh, she's stubborn, or she's egoistic, or she's too assertive.
Right.
So I felt if the same thing a man does, they are like, oh, he's confident.
Yeah.
He's assertive. He's a leader. But then every time a woman has the exact same traits, they just add a 2 to it. Oh, she's too assertive. She's too bossy. She's, too arrogant. So that is something which was very like not vibing.
Well, I mean, you go back to what you had said earlier. It's because there's these expectations, these set expectations that are how a woman should behave, how they should show up, what they should be doing. And if you're going to go against that in any way, then you're going to call those labels. You're going to call it, stubborn, aggressive, all those other things, because it just does not equate, right? So they have no other way to name it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was when I was like, hey, if I want to focus, if I want to like put my career first, this is not going to work out for me. And probably like a secondary reason was also that at that point in time, I wanted to really work in the cutting edge of AI and ML. And since then, I started using LinkedIn, by the way.
Oh, good job.
Since I was in my undergrad, I used to like
top
reach out.
influencer right here,
she
and
is.
she has courses on LinkedIn, and super LinkedIn fan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a subtle plug-in, but then
No, but it's that's your platform, right?
Follow,
you have,
subscribe, do
you
other
have like
things.
almost 500,000 users or more on LinkedIn that are following, right? So
I've been writing for like quite some time. So that used to be my outlet to share my thoughts and just like, connect with people. And at that point, like DeepMind used to be a big thing, and started connecting with people there. Like they were in London, and there was like some amazing teams in the US. So that's how I started like learning from people what they're doing. And my focus at that point was more research oriented. But then I knew that, hey, if I want to like work on the cutting edge of things, I think probably like moving to the US would be the best thing for me. And I got into Columbia. So it was a no-brainer for me. I was like, yay!
Good job.
wow. How was that experience actually moving to the US and
was
living
that
in the
scary?
US? Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's a whole different world and norms. I mean, you mentioned some of the challenges, but how is it
it
going?
definitely was a hard decision because my father was not working for like quite some time. He had retired for quite some time, and my mom was the only breadwinner of the family. And to be honest, like she wouldn't even have thought of me leaving to a different country. Was like, I didn't even have a passport, by the way, till then. Like till I actually got my admit, and like I didn't even have a passport. So that was never in the cards that, like I'm gonna ever leave the country. I barely could speak very well in English. So it was a different scenario, and I had a bunch of people from my family telling me, why do you want to put so much pressure on your family? They can't afford. Why do you want to like, take a loan and like do all of this stuff? Why don't you just stay in India and like do something here? And, like that was the kind of feedback that I was getting. Or like people would go and tell me that, hey, why don't you go and join a state university, which will be like much more affordable and cheaper.
And stay local.
Yeah. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, if I want to work with these professors, I was very determined that, hey, these are the professors I want to work with. And I was like, if that's my goal, then money should not be stopping me. So the professor that I was like really inspired by, I reached out to him and I got a scholarship. So it was like tuition was covered, I was getting paid. So by the
my
time I
goodness.
graduated, I made money through my master's.
Damn.
You're a go-getter for sure.
That is fantastic. And also just so determined that you're like, I want to do this. And then you also got the means to do it as
Yeah,
well. I mean, you just
exactly.
like, you powered through. That's a very, very impressive. And also going against, I mean, what your family thought you were going to do. I mean,
Right.
that's difficult on so many levels.
Yeah, it was hard, but then I think like my mom supported me through
Okay.
all of this. Never for once she questioned me about anything that I was doing. She was like, "I'm scared, but I know that you'll do it." So
And she knows how determined you are. She raised you.
Well,
to
she
be
is a
that way,
product of you.
right?
So obviously.
Yeah, you.
but
yeah.
that was helpful, you know,
Yeah.
like just knowing that, hey, like even if I mess up, at least she trusts me. Yeah, you know, like
Amazing.
she's got my back.
Is she still in India and your father?
She's still in
Okay.
India. My father passed away. It's been like 6 years now. So he passed away, but my mom is in India.
Has she been able to visit you here at all?
Yeah, she comes here like every year.
Okay.
She loves
Great.
she loves California, but then she has her own life in India, so she doesn't want to permanently stay with me.
Yeah. Do you go back and visit too?
Yeah,
Family?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, I mean, coming to the U.S., what an experience in itself, but congratulations. You came here, you went to Columbia, all the things. It's amazing. But there's also another great thing about you, which is you're also an influencer in the space. There's one thing to be like, I love AI, I'm going to like major in it, and I'm going to research, but you're an influencer. I mean, you have a book you wrote. I mean, you talk about it constantly. You're on multiple, podcasts. I've seen you in a lot of different, which is why I was intrigued by you. But I was like, okay, how do you actually go about doing that? Was that intentional that you're like, hey, was that a planned thing, or did it just start to evolve? Like, walk us through the life of being an AI influencer and what that means.
So when I started, that was nowhere on the cards.
Okay.
Till 2020, I don't think I even had an ounce of thought about what my followership or like, what I'm going to do with LinkedIn. I used to just post my thoughts. That was all about it. And in 2020, I think when pandemic hit, some of my friends were casually chatting with me and they were like, hey, at that point I had like around 40,000 followers on LinkedIn, and they were like, you have a pretty huge following. And I was like, what are you talking about? What is following? Like, yeah, it's like, what exactly is that? And that very year I got like LinkedIn Top Voice badge. So I was like, so this is a thing. I was like, okay, somebody's reading what I'm writing. So that's when I sort of realized what was going on. And somewhere like with the book or like, with the personal branding and all of that, I think a lot of it was something that I was doing subconsciously because I just loved writing about it. I loved talking about it. I loved the fact that they were advocates for responsible AI. And as an engineer, I wanted to take it from, hey, we have responsible AI best practices and policies to how do we get it in practice into engineering systems, right? So that is something that I used to love talking about. So that's how it started. After that point, it was sort of a turning point for me because I was like, hey, there are people who are reading my thoughts. This seems to be a platform that I can use to like educate more people. That's something I used to absolutely love. Even growing up, I used to just gather like kids around in my community and be like, I'm going to forcefully teach you. But then you got to sit in front. And like, I'm just going to use my Blackboard to like teach you stuff.
Yeah.
So I used to love doing that. So I was like, hey, like if I'm able to like, get more people interested in this and like get more women like interested in like the STEM field and be like, hey, you can do this as well. Like this is a career opportunity that you can explore. That's how it started. I used to like write a lot about it. And since then, when I started having a realization that, hey, I want to do this more consciously, it was probably by luck or like, by however the stars were aligned that I got to that point doing that subconsciously. But now I was like, hey, I want to have a strategy around it. I want to make sure that I'm aligning my content to cater to like, what people are asking me.
Right.
And having that like, give and take relationship. And then I started mentoring people. I started this Illuminate AI community and I started mentoring people. And then it started growing so big that I was like, I can't do this on my own. So I started onboarding other mentors onto the platform.
Oh, fantastic.
And started like doing that at scale. So Yeah, that's something that I started doing. Yeah.
So if you want to teach us all in our audience, like let's talk about AI. Like what is like a mentor moment of AI and get people excited about it and like why? Why should they be interested?
Why should mentors be interested?
Or just anyone be interested in AI? Like we have different users, different listeners. And so what would be that thing to spark interest in like what and how they can use it?
So personally, I used to hate history when I was in school. But then I think what I've realized is it teaches you the most. You know, if you're not reading history, then you're missing out on all the wisdom that our ancestors have left for us. And if there is one thing that I can learn from technology's history, it is the same point that we are at right now with AI. Back when, I don't know, like back in 1990s or like 1980s, software used to be something that only professionals used to use.
True.
You know, like my mom had software in her computer at work.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a computer at home. But that entire technological revolution is about how can we increase productivity, not just for professionals, but for everyone. So that's the same trend that I'm seeing right now, which is AI used to be for, hey, how do we predict stocks? How do we build recommendation systems? To, how do I help you cook better? Or like, you know, how do I help you plan your day better? It's all about like democratizing that same technology to help everybody at scale. And that's the exact reason I feel like people should be excited about it, because I'm not talking about it from like a dystopian future, but AI is going to be embedded everywhere.
Absolutely.
We're seeing it there everywhere, right? Like right from your smart fridge to like how you like control your car, to how your schedule is being produced, to your email, to every single thing is being controlled by AI. And I feel there's going to be a point where we stop calling it AI. Like right now, do we actively say that, hey, I have software on my phone?
Yeah, that's true.
No.
That's true.
It's there.
It's gonna just exist.
exists.
Yeah.
It just exists. Now, because the toolkit is new and like the technology is new, people are like so obsessed about it, and like people talk about AI as if it's like such a big thing. It is a tool. It's gonna get embedded in our lives, and then it's gonna disappear. It's gonna disappear from our conscious mind.
It'll still be running in the background.
Yeah.
But
Of course.
yeah.
But I mean, you're right. Like even the simple, I use Gemini all the time. That's like my AI of choice.
That's her best friend.
That's my best friend. No, I've talked about it before. I need to call it something because I talk to it all the time. Like I know I'm like, help me write a birthday card or a card. Like, or cooking. I mean, it applies to everything. Or like I got this big doc and I need to, understand it, synthesize it for me. Or guess what? That math problem with my daughter is like freaking hard. And it's been a long time since I've done math that way. So help me. And it's just so amazing. But even if you think about the simple use cases, I use that more than like Google search. And they do have it in Google search, right? It's like in the beginning of it. But like, I think eventually it'll just be that part of it, and that's just like how you're going to be using it. Like I can't imagine life without it, but I think there's just this, it's so new, and it's like you said, it's there's a segregation of calling it. I think that's a really good point, that it's going to just exist everywhere.
It's just going to exist everywhere. And I just love the fact that it's making knowledge so accessible to a lot of people. Something as simple as, I never read the terms and conditions on my credit card when I'm signing for something, right? And for some reason, a lot of these like documents or like legalities and stuff make you feel overwhelmed about it. But then it can be something as simple as download the PDF, upload it on your favorite AI tool, and ask it that, hey, what are the most important things that I need to care about in this? You don't always need to have a lawyer, like, have an expert help you with that. Again, it's not going to replace the most intelligent person, or like, that's not the point that is it going to take away the jobs of a lawyer? No.
Right.
They are needed for their own good. But there are parts of it which makes me feel that I am more knowledgeable.
You're educating yourself
about things in my life. I don't feel that I'm like, that portion of knowledge is like hidden from me. Now it's more accessible. It's the same thing with internet, right? I feel like now the knowledge has no boundaries. It's not that, hey, like India is receiving a different information than US, than any other country. And that used to be one of the cases back when like printing presses were a thing, right? Knowledge was like very concentrated in like certain pockets, and it was only accessible to certain people. But now with phones and like with social media, with internet, a person sitting in like the most rural place in India also has access to the same information that you have access to.
Yeah, I love how you're phrasing that too, because so many people are scared of AI or thinking, oh, it's going to take away jobs from humans and all this stuff. But the way that you're phrasing it, it's like, it's not something to be scared of. It's something to embrace because it's just enhancing our life in a beautiful way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So clearly you are very passionate about AI and really excited, but we want to know what excites you most. I mean, there's so many different applications for AI, but what excites you personally?
Something that excites me the most is one, like how it's going to make things accessible to people. And not just in terms of like knowledge, but then I've been observing like, recently a lot of updates have been coming around AI agents, which is sort of giving, arms to the brain of the AI that we have. So it's not just that the model can think and answer what it's thinking about, or like, just not answer based on your questions, but can actually do things for you. So that's basically like, you mentioned an example, right? Like you're asking Gemini that, hey, help me write a birthday card.
Yeah.
Rather than just giving you a line that, hey, this is something that you can write, what if it's able to just write it for you, right? If it's like just able to craft that email and send it across, right?
True.
So that's something that excites me. But I do feel that there is some level of controls that I personally believe should be there, because as powerful as the technology is, there is a possibility that it can go rogue.
Yeah.
Not that the technology itself can go rogue on its own. It's more about, if you hand over this technology to bad actors, they can do really bad things using the technology.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can really amplify the impact of doing something really bad with using the technology. So that's why having certain measures and safeguards and guardrails is important. And that's something that excites me the most, which is like, hey, how is this innovation and regulation going to shape up in the future, that it's still empowering us? It doesn't feel like, hey, there is this like, superpower that has been hidden away, that has been like trapped away from us. It doesn't feel that way. We still feel empowered to like, hey, I can do like a million other things and in a more efficient way. But at the same time, I don't have to feel scared about using it or like, giving it to my mom.
Right. You can be more confident.
I mean, I have like a real life, use case where I was driving, so I won't say the car, like a self-driving car. And I was like, now that is cool. Like you said, doing things for you. It's like, yes, like drive me somewhere, take me somewhere. So I used the self-driving car service, was like, hey, this is really cool. In San Francisco, I was like, take me to a grocery store because it's late at night. And it dropped me off in one of the worst areas of San Francisco. And I was literally dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think if there was a human that was behind it, because I didn't know the area, they'd be like, you cannot, these things are fixable. Like you can look up the crime rate in the area and all this stuff. So I think go back to the ethics and feeling safe about it. It's like, yes, the product is doing what it's supposed to do, but it needs to have that wrapping around it to make it feel safe. And I remember going, honestly, to the police station because they looked at us. They're like, what are you doing here, lady? Like, get over here. And then of course our car took off, right? Because that's what it's supposed to do. So then you're stuck there waiting for another car, and it's like, well, this is not the safest place for me to be here right now.
It dropped the package. It was done with
it was
its
done
job.
with it's like check. So
there's
there's a lot of human aspects that need to be added into AI to feel safe.
You can train it, right?
You can. I mean, they're all there, but then I think back to your point, who's regulating, what are some rules? And I guess that's the balance of how much is the government involved or not? It's like, how are you being held accountable to do the right thing?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm glad that you pulled up that example, because it's a perfect example to show that it's not the technology that's bad. It's the people who built the technology who have ignored the fact that there could be a security issue or a safety issue by dropping somebody somewhere, right? So it's a missing data problem, which is that, hey, the AI doesn't have information about it.
Right.
So how do you improve it? Once like feeding it with diverse data to have more stakeholders on the table in order to like give their thoughts and like, tell them how would they think, right? Like if I am a driver, if I am like, driving a cab and I'm taking around people around in a certain place, how do you take that domain expertise knowledge and feed that to AI?
Right. Right. And that is the battle. I think we are like, oh, I'm scared AI is going to take over our jobs. It's like, you still need that human aspect to make sure it does the right thing, to your point.
Yeah.
And it's like, humans are needed. If anything, I hope, like they could do more work for us and we could just sit back and relax and, have Mai Tais and hang out the beach. That'd be nice. But I mean, we still are needed to make sure that we get it right. So I think having that bar, and I think this is going to be an interesting evolution. It's going to get messy, but we need to hold that bar. So thank you for, got AI approval on that perspective.
Well, and there's plenty of movies too that talk about the types of AI that we could have, like robots that do the nanny work, that do the cleaning in the house, and then they go rogue, and then all of a sudden everybody's dying. And like, those are the terrifying stories. But if you have the right people who are doing it responsibly, building these things that are actually beneficial and enhancing our life, that's what we want out of AI.
It's a perspective as well.
Yeah.
A person who's, the example that you gave, I was speaking with somebody about it, and they were like, hey, I don't want a robot nanny to take care of my kids because it can go rogue. So can a human.
Yeah, talk about that. There's a lot of crazy people out there.
Can a human.
They have nanny cams for a reason.
I'm like, a robot on the other hand can be more deterministic if it's like run in a safe environment. So it doesn't have the a moral compass to really like flicker around with.
Yeah.
So that might be good in certain cases. On the other hand, I might say that, I'm more comfortable leaving my kids under the supervision of a robot than a person because I don't know what the person is thinking.
Yeah, or if they're going through some mental moment that they snap and
or something set them off. And it's not good. So what should we be worried here about?
Very thought-provoking perspective. I like that.
Yeah. So now you also published a book. We got your book there. You're going to sign it for us later there too. Yay!
Wow.
I was searching for it in different places, and I got it on Amazon. I was like, okay, she needs to be in Barnes and Noble, everywhere. We need to have you everywhere.
I'll probably like need your recommendation on that because this is my first book. I self-published it, so I'm not familiar with this territory.
She's lazy also, by the way. She self-published a book.
I know. It's like highly does not compute, but nice try. But you wrote this book, What's Your Worth? And we just talked about AI and then what's your worth. So tell us a little bit about this book, like what brought on this idea to write this book and what it's about, and super excited.
Yeah. I'll tell you like why I got the idea of writing about it, but I think I was telling this, like we were just casually chatting, right? So for me, like my life has somehow revolved around with so much of AI and like the work that I'm doing that it just feels like I'm not working anymore. It just feels that, hey, I'm just doing something that I'm interested in. I don't care about it being my 9 to 5. Even if I don't have that, I'm going to continue doing this. I'm not doing this because it pays my like bills. That's not my motivation to work on what I'm working.
You're passionate.
So I'm passionate about it. So that's what I used to always feel, that everybody used to feel. But during the layoffs, while pandemic was happening, I was just chatting with one of my friend who got laid off, unfortunately. Totally not because of their talent. It was just a lot of
the industry
chaos
is going through right now.
Was going on. And I was just having this conversation with him, and I just heard his thought that, hey, it's just weird to introduce myself to anybody, because if I'm going to parties or like, if I'm meeting somebody, it just goes by default that, hey, I'm so-and-so, software engineer at.
Yeah. You had your elevator pitch down. That's what you know what to say.
Exactly.
Or introductions. Hi, I'm so-and-so.
What do you do?
What do you do? And this person was like, hey, suddenly I don't know what to say. Hey, I am so-and-so. I'm what? So that sort of hit me, and I was like, hey, I have an answer to this, but that doesn't mean that everybody else has an answer to that. And it's a very sad reality if we try to like associate our self-worth with a completely different institution,
Yeah. With a title.
with a title, with a company. Not saying that, hey, you should not passionately work for a company, but then do not put yourself below the company. You should be the first priority.
I love that.
A lot of times people are like, hey, I got a job at this company, so I should like, put my heart and soul into it and like not care about my mental health or like, that's going to be my first priority. No, they need you as much as you need them. It's not a favor that any company is doing on you by keeping you employed.
Yeah.
You are adding probably 10x more value that you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
So
You earned to be there.
Exactly.
You're doing the work.
Exactly. So I'm like, you own your skills.
Right?
Yeah.
You're the most qualified person for that job. That's why you're in that position.
Exactly, right? Like, and now that you are not part of the company, you may not have the position. You've not lost your skills.
You're still a software
you're still a
engineer.
software
You're still an
engineer.
engineer. Yeah, absolutely.
So that sort of like got me wanting to like write a book about like, hey, why is it important in this age to, have a brand that's bigger than an organization, and how to have your own self-worth associated with your own personal brand. So you are your own brand. You have your own interests. You have your products and services. So how do you build that for yourself? Because that builds a lot of confidence for yourself. And then you don't have to ever be fearful that, hey, what if I get laid off? Sure.
So what?
Yeah, you still own your skills, and it's interesting. It's resonating just deeply with me. I mean, I've been in tech for 30 years, and even being at multiple companies, that's how I said, this is who I am. I'm part of this company, these skills, and that's your elevator pitch constantly. And after being at LinkedIn for 13 and a half years, love that company, learned so much, have beautiful relationships. But after I left, first thing is like, what do you do? It's like, well, I'm LinkedIn, I'm VP, and it's like all that's gone. I put too much worth on that being such a big part of your identity.
Yeah.
And how do you reframe that and be like, well, you just create your own company and you just, that's what you do.
Like what you just did. Yeah.
and that's one way, but you're right. Like you are your own personal brand.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you're doing. You're basically, you are living that. And now, you wrote, it's interesting that you wrote that book because I think probably many people would think that your first book would have been solely on AI. So it's just interesting perspective of and expectations.
I have heard that from somebody else as well. They were like, I thought your first book will be about AI, but I'm like, no, I'm not. Like there's a bigger problem to solve before we get to AI.
Yeah, the human side of it.
Yes.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's what I love. There's so much more behind the human.
Yeah.
There really is. Like you with your bio, when I first started working with you, you include, I'm a mom of 2 kids. I love running. I'm a San Jose State alumni. Like that's part
all
of who
these
you
things.
are. And it's a collective. It's not a one thing that defines you.
And I love that you're bringing this up because especially in the tech world with so many layoffs, I mean, so many people are just so crushed.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to make that leap and redefine really what their worth is because they lived and breathed that a company and that job defined them. And honestly, that paycheck, right? All in the tech money place, they pay pretty well, so it's like you're attached to all those things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You question your worth when that changes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your worth? I would love to know. Do you have anything written out or tagline or?
No, I don't think I have any tagline. But like if I have to tell you something about myself, I think I'm a peculiar person, and I don't think I ever get satisfied. So yeah, I am happy about a lot of things, but then I don't get satisfied, and that sort of like keeps me up to like think about what's next. So yeah, a lot of times it comes across to my family. They're like, you seem stressed, and I'm like, no, I'm not stressed. This is something that I brought on myself. I'm happy about it. Like this is something that keeps me keeps me driven on to like doing something next.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like work if you're like living your passion, and it's very challenging to actually do that because you're going against that norm of that expectation again, that what we earlier talked about, and everybody expects something different. But I think sometimes also when you're like, are you stressed? Because I honestly am getting that a lot too. Erica, you're working more than you ever have, but it feels good.
Yeah.
And that's what you're enjoying. And you could see that. I mean, it's clearly, you're off in different directions doing different things. It's amazing.
And it's a cool thing. We've had a guest on before that talked about it's not just passion at some point, it's an obsession with what you're doing in a good, healthy way because you feel like you're getting something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I mean, if I didn't have the healthy part, I don't think I would have been able to come as far as I did. And I don't think I'll have the energy to physically go forward. So it's definitely something that I make sure that I'm consciously putting efforts, that I have good sleep, or like, all the best practices. Like, hey, I'm hitting the gym, I'm eating healthy food, I'm not like, I'm taking the right breaks. All of that thing, like sort of like part of the parcel. But
So you're taking care of yourself. Self-care is important. I have a question. You have, it sounds like a checklist almost of every day you need to do these things, and hopefully you check all the boxes. Do you use AI to manage if you've completed your day successfully?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, tell us how you do that.
How do you prompt it?
You don't want to. This is something my husband that comes and tells me. He's like, "How many subscriptions do you have?" And I'm like, I have like the pro subscription of pretty much every single AI tool out there, because I'm like, I can automate my video editing. I can automate my like the everyday productivity thing. So I'm old school. I still use my notebook and pen to like write things out. So every single morning I'm like writing these things that, hey, these are the things that I need to get done today. But it takes me less amount of time to have like an AI tool just click a picture of that and be like, hey, can you prioritize this for me? So it sort of like does a good job in like creating time blocks for each and every item. And then it's sort of, so I use this prompt a lot.
Yeah, we want to know your favorite prompt, your favorite app.
Share.
What are you using that's most productive for you? Yeah.
Good part. So I have this thing called AshGPT that I've built out. And it sort of has a ton of prompts about my personality. So I don't work very well with like longer work blocks. So I can't like work on one piece of thing for like 3 hours straight. I'll work on task 1 for like an hour. Then I'll take a 15-minute break, move on to a completely different task, and then come back to task 1 after like a few hours. That's how I have my productivity cycles. So I have inserted a ton of prompts about my personality, about like the kind of jokes that I crack in my writing style and all of that stuff. And then when I'm using AshGPT, I just give it a prompt that based on what you know about me, do this.
Wow.
So it's like, I don't have to explain too much to it every single time I'm using.
So can you build Elizabeth GPT for me?
Well, they
Erica
need to know
GPT,
you.
but
they have to know. That's what I was going to ask. So you're constantly feeding data to this so that it gets to know you better. Like it's like you wake up in the morning like, hey, this is what I like to do, just so you have it. You have that data. So then later when I need you and you're going to figure more stuff about me. So you're constantly feeding it.
So I am constantly updating it to some extent, but then like there, like the majority of the chunk about what I like, what I don't like, my work preferences, things I'm working on, all of that is like something which is pre-fed into the model. So it just sort of like piggybacks on it whenever I'm asking it something. So things like, hey, this is my background, or like these are the analogies that I use when I'm trying to teach somebody something. So the next time I can ask it to like write some post for me, it's able to like understand that, hey, what's my writing style? What kind of analogies I use? And then it's able to like help me out with that. So again, the point is I still have a video editor. The AI tool has not replaced my video editor. It's just made it faster for him and me to get things done.
What's an example?
And
because we're learning here in this
like
process too.
Efficient.
And I got an editor just maybe over there that can.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a simple example of how my video setup used to look like early on. I'm just talking about like, simple reels and like YouTube videos that I used to make.
Yeah.
So I like writing scripts because you would have realized I'm a very talkative person. So if I go rogue without a script, I can like take forever to record a video.
It's a good thing though. It's good content. You've got tons of content.
Yeah, she's like, but I need constraints.
So I'm like, I need to write a script and then like work with it. So early on, I used to have like a teleprompter and like a light and all of the fancy sophisticated stuff kept around, and then I'm recording this video. It used to take a ton of my time, and then my output of number of videos used to be less because I'm like, oh, I have to do this all over again. Now I use this AI tool. I don't know if I should name it, but I use this AI tool.
Is it going to help us? Yeah, I don't know.
You can tell
But
us
it's
later.
Okay.
It sort of like has a teleprompter embedded in the app itself. So I just write something, I feed it directly into the app, and then it shows me on the screen. So I can use my front camera to record the entire video. It has like automatic light fixture. It has like if my hair is not looking good, like there are touch-ups that I can do with
Really?
the app.
Oh, that's helpful.
It's pretty good. So I can do that. Then it has like audio editing, like noise decancellation and all of that stuff. Writes automatic captions. So I don't have to like feed it a particular script. It knows when to emphasize certain videos, certain words when I'm speaking. So sort of helps me in all of those aspects.
Wow.
I can just delete a word and it'll know exactly which section of the video to delete. So sort of like fast tracks my entire video production stuff. So
Yeah, and trimming it down to exactly what you want and you want to produce.
And the point is, I'm not learning to become a video editor.
No.
I'm not learning how like sophisticated tool works.
But you're doing a better handoff to then your video editor, and it's like, hey, we just saved this amount of time.
Exactly.
And then you can produce more content, and it makes everything efficient. But again, the key point is you're not replacing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that person is still needed to like add that
Human
creativity. I'm not telling this person to like, add certain infographics. He's using his own creativity to understand what B-rolls needs to go in which section. So you still need a human to like be that creative.
I think I've figured it out. You're not lazy, you're efficient. You're super efficient. There's a big difference there.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for utilizing that and rocking your life.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, any way that we can be more efficient in our life, the better. I'm all about the tools. I'm bringing all the tools, and I want your list. I think you should actually create a post since you have these are your top tools, and
It just
and
keeps
educate us.
it keeps growing. Every
keeps
time there's
growing.
like new tools that comes out in the market, I'm like, oh, subscription. I want to try this.
Okay, now you're obsessed about it. I love it.
Obsessed. That's what you need to be,
It's
obsessed.
good. Well,
It's
then
great.
you're learning every time. You're like, that works, that doesn't work. But oh my gosh, okay, Ash, we can talk to you all day long. You gave us a wealth of information and on AI, also being human about it too. I mean, just some unexpected things. So thank you for that. One of the things that we like to do and end this podcast with is really giving a shout out to any women that you admire or inspired by, and you really want to just like elevate and they just make you feel good.
Yeah, I mean, I can probably say a couple of women. Indra Nooyi is a really well-known entrepreneur, and the reason she inspires me is like keep aside all of her accomplishments from like a career perspective, but then as a person, she's so bold, she's so driven, and she's been doing this since like 1980s 90s, when I'm sure it was much harder to be a woman leader than it is now. But then she has carved that path for all of us to like, follow and be more comfortable, not having to like say sorry for things that we have not done something wrong. Like, I think we are very prone to like saying sorry about a lot of small things. And one of the things that I heard in one of her podcasts was that, hey, how easily do we keep saying sorry?
Yeah.
Every single time.
All day,
Like,
every day.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, I mean, you don't want to be rude, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that that she inspired me. And like in one of her podcasts, I tell my husband the same thing. Like in one of her podcasts, she's like, hey, I have my list of priorities, which is like all my career and everything. And she's like, my husband was telling me that, hey, I'm the last on your priority list. And she's like, hey, you should be happy you're there on the priority list.
Dang.
So I'm like, she's a badass. She is a badass.
Calls it how it is, I guess.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
I love that the fact that, she is so bold and she projects that alpha personality for us to be comfortable being that, hey, like, don't call me masculine because I'm alpha. So that sort of emotion is something that I really resonate with her. And the other person is like, I came across her while I was at Google, Alina Karen. And she had written a very interesting book. Most of the books that I read about like, leadership are very preachy. Or like, management sort of books are very preachy. But then her book is about adventures of women in tech. So it's about a lot of like quirky journeys that she has gone through and then things that she's learned. And the book is not just about her. It's about a lot of other women she has worked with and their journeys and their lessons learned. So I love that book that she has written, and also comes with a workbook. And probably she's the one who inspired me to add a lot more activities in my book
Cool.
because it's full of like, practical tips and strategies. How do you do things for yourself? Not just that, hey, I read this book and I'm inspired and I'm going to sit. It's not about that. It's about like, hey, I read this book. Now I exactly know what are the things I should go and start working on.
Actionable
Actionable
stuff.
stuff. Yeah. So, and of course, my mom.
Of course.
Well, yeah.
That's beautiful.
She inspired you to be where you are
Yeah.
today, right?
Thank goodness she gave you Excel and you started doing those data entries.
I know. Thank God she started using me as an unpaid intern.
Database engineer, basically.
Yeah.
She was just giving you experience ahead of time,
Yeah.
But no, we're inspired by you. So thank you for being here. And for those listening in, please check out her book, What's Your Worth? Buy it on Amazon. Get it where?
It's on Amazon.
on
Yes, we can.
Amazon.
Yeah, you can
Okay,
get it.
perfect.
But we need to have it in more
till
places.
the time I
Yeah.
work with Erica to get it like to
Yeah,
the bookstores.
we know some people. We know some people. We can hook you up
Self-published.
with other book authors, so it's going to be fine. Yeah, so it's great. But thank you so much. We're so thankful that you
Thanks,
you
Erica.
came and spent
Thanks.
time with
Thanks,
us.
Elizabeth, for having me here. It
Thank
was
you.
wonderful chatting with both of you. And it's always like nice to hear other people's thoughts about things that you have been talking about. Gives you a lot of different perspectives. So thanks for sharing your thoughts as well.
I love it. It was a good time.
All right.
All right.
That's a
it.
wrap. Humanize Her would not be possible without the crew behind the scenes. Thank you to Ash Blodgett, our director and creative producer, for guiding us with expertise, creativity, and passion. Becky Davis, our talented director of photography and creative producer, for bringing our stories to life with stunning visuals. And Kristen West, our director of brand and design, for creating an emotional brand identity. To our listeners, we're on this journey together, and we love hearing how this podcast has helped you. It keeps us going, so please keep sending us your stories to her@humanizeher.com to be featured in upcoming episodes. And if you'd like to help us with this movement, please support by rating and subscribing. Until next time.